You blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink.
I got you.
Let's go.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition here of Show Blitz here, the Mountain Steel podcast right now. As everyone is aware right now, the Steelers will be taking on the Seattle Seahawks coming up this evening on Sunday Night Football in Heinz Field. Kickoff will be slated for 7:20 p.m. As for the Steelers versus Seahawks right now, this is going to be a game right now where the Steelers are looking to try and get their season turned around right now. They kind of got off to a good start last week versus Denver Broncos, snapping a 3-game losing streak. And hopefully they can turn it into something real good, special right now going forward at this point. They could sure use it because right now after this game, remember, they have the bye coming up following this. And they definitely want a lot of luck going their way. And right after coming off the bye, which would be on Halloween, we'll find out the Steelers are a trick or treat. Denver, the Browns, I guess could say. But anyway, it's a game that they must have going into this, especially versus Seattle Seahawks, who've definitely found a way to frustrate the Steelers the last 2 times since 2015. The last 6 years, they have been 0-2 versus the Seahawks. Mike Tomlin, who went up against Pete Carroll. He is 1-2 lifetime versus Pete Carroll. The Seahawks do lead the all-time. The Steelers do lead the all-time series. The Seahawks do lead the all-time series at 9-10, 8-10 in the regular season. But and that's about it for right now. And then, of course, the playoffs. Steelers got the only one win that mattered. That was in the Super Bowl right there, where he defeated them for their one. For the fun. And there you go. As we take a look around the league right now, bad news for right now. Unfortunately, the Ravens, who got pretty lucky last week against versus the Colts, Lamar Jackson, who put on a show on Monday Night Football versus Indianapolis Colts. Now, it's one thing for the Baltimore Colts, for the Indianapolis Colts returning back to Baltimore for a lot of historical reasons. Lamar Jackson in that game right there, you look at it right there. I thought the biggest changing point in that game was a blocked field goal by Calais Campbell right there. The Ravens the Colts had a chance right there in that game to really put things out of reach. They were up 25-17. They were looking to go up 20-17. It ended up getting blocked right there. And you saw what happened the rest of the way as we looked at it. And they were able to tie up the game, send the overtime, and they will win in overtime right there. Lamar Jackson in that game, look at him. He's probably quite arguably one of the top candidates for MVP this year. Had 4 touchdowns and 0 picks, passed for 442 yards. And it gets better for Lamar Jackson in this case when you also look at it, too, as far as on the rushing element of it. He also ran for 62 yards off of 14 carries. So, there's a concern number one right there as we look at, the Steelers right now. You talk about their playoff hopes hinging right now, trying to keep pace with the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's very incumbent. They do everything in lockstep to handle their own business at the moment, because right now as it stands, if they're not careful, and the Ravens, which I anticipate them going on to win this game versus Chargers right now, they could be in a worse position for the division. Not so much the wild card, but the division. You could be arguably down to 3 games right now. That's where you got to be careful right now, because then think about it. When you come out of this matchup versus Seattle Seahawks on Sunday Night Football, yeah, you got no Russell Wilson, but you still got, some respectable guys on defense right now, where they get to a little bit later on, but still, you still got guys on the Seahawks team who are still sticking around defensively. You still got Bobby Wagner right there, who is a hell of a beast right there, middle linebacker. Third on this team for quarterback hits with 3, and he's also second on his team with tackles for loss with 2. We all know what he's capable of doing. He can be as much as this rusher as anybody on this team right here. The Seahawks. Let's not make a big mistake about this and overlook them. A lot of people look at him and say the Seattle Seahawks, they got no boom on their Legion of Boom defense, as Keyshawn J. Will and Max allude to on ESPN2 in the mornings, Monday through Friday. But you look at it right now, I mean, they are dead last in total yards right now, allowing over 2,254 yards. And they got 5 takeaways, which ranks 21st. 2 spots better than the Steelers, believe it or not, who only got 4 takeaways. And I got to tell you right now, I really believe right now where the Steelers have to be careful this season right now. The more the season goes along, you want to start winning those turnover battles right now. Because the Steelers right now, they're 15th in that category with only having 6 total takeaways for the year. I mean, 6. That's not a very recognizable defense we saw in the last 2 years under Keith Butler with Mike Tomlin. When you bring in a guy like Terrell Owens Sr., and not yet alone, and the guy like Mika Fitzpatrick. You want to make sure you be able to control that fort right there. The Steelers, for the most part, I mean, it's do or die stats right now. I mean, that began last week, and we saw a little bit of encouragement with a lot more balance. Finally got to see a good game. Najee Harris, as far as rushing the ball, he got his first 100-yard game rushing in that contest. I mean, you look at the game summary from last week versus Denver Broncos. I mean, in that game right there, as we looked at it, I mean, for the most part, he had 22 carries for 122 yards, 5.3 yards per attempt. He also had 2 receptions for 20 yards for a total of 43 touches for 142 yards of scrimmage and a touchdown. And he also had 4 out of the 5 first downs as far as in terms of running the ball in that game. And so for right now, I really believe this is a moment right now. I mean, Pete Carroll is just as savvy as anybody big-time coach in this game today. Right now, you got a good battle right now between Mike Tomlin and Pete Carroll, 2 of the highly accountable, respected coaches in today's NFL. When you look at where the league is going at this point, and I know a lot of people are wondering if I'm going to be talking about the John Gruden situation. I'm just going to just say this real quick before we go any further, real quickly. John Gruden, you can't say the stuff what he said. I mean, this past, the last 8 years or 10 years, I used to say, that went on for about an 8-year period. When you're not only talking about Demaryius Smith, I can understand that, but the racial term they used to describe him, I'm not going to repeat it, but I mean, also too, just talking about Michael Sam, kind of throwing him under the bus right there a little bit in the way. And I don't know if he was throwing him under the bus, but say he wasn't in favor of gay players being drafted or women being in the game. He said a lot of offensive stuff, including quite a few stuff to Roger Goodell. I think the stuff he said to Roger Goodell, I think that's anybody could move on from that. Roger Goodell, he has thicker skin than that. So to be honest with you, if Roger Goodell was that offended, he would have been gone. He would have been punished or possibly removed a lot sooner than that. So trust me, I don't think it has much to do with Roger Goodell. But I do feel like right now, too, I mean, when you look at it right now, we are still in a time where it is partly cancel culture where everybody's got to be careful. And I will just say this because right now, I do find it a little bit odd. And when I'm looking at guys like Mike Florio or other people from around the league, remember, this whole investigation right now was checking in on the Washington football team's organization, their environment, how they're having a lot of harassment going on, not just with cheerleaders, internal employees right there. Bruce Allen, who's one of the names that seem to be coming up right now. I mean, when you look at it. And then also another one, Jeff Pass. Right now, Jeff Pass, who's kind of coinciding with Bruce Allen, they seem to be having a good friendship. as the Bruce Allen did with John Gruden. I do find it a little odd. I mean, John Gruden, at the end of the day, he did get scapegoated, in my opinion, the way it comes out. But at the same time, once you let that stuff get out there, no offense, someone's going to have to pay the piper. And it's just ridiculous how long this has been hidden and why we're bringing this up until the last couple of weeks. And it's just a crying shame. But, I mean, to go forward right now, I mean, you look at having a guy like Mike Tomlin right now, especially for the Steelers, what he stands for. I mean, remember what Bill Cowher would always say, and he said in his Hall of Fame speech. Remember, the Steelers is all about a family, establishing a culture, and more personally, doing the right thing. And eventually, I mean, John Gruden felt pressured enough where he felt like he was going to do the right thing, step aside, and pretty much right now, it's pretty darn close to hardly any more chances for this guy. I mean, you must say, I mean, like a lot of luck has run out, no pun intended, which, by the way, is my fantasy football opponent. But unless he really has a coming to Jesus moment and he gets in there with black communities, he really humbles himself and really shows sincere, genuine apologies, but not only apologizing, but trying to really show that he's changing. Because I will say this, in today's times, to hear the saying, watch what you say, I don't think that's enough these days. It's not only watch what you say, but also watch how you act too, because a lot of people are going to pay attention to that. People are going to want to get a glimpse and see how you're handling situations too. I mean, it's one thing to put out there and say, you know what, I was wrong for what I did. I truly am humbly sorry. And you try and show remorse by acknowledging what you did. It's another to also take it to the next step to really complete it, follow it up, really get into action, and really trying to show some progressive change. I mean, where you're really trying to truly learn from your errors, how you apply them in life situations. I think that's the thing we need to really reinforce. Watch what you say. From my standpoint, it's not enough these days. You have to follow it up. The actions, what you do, will definitely judge you a lot more. Let's think about that for a moment. And let's get ready to continue to move on right now. Sticking with the Steelers versus Seahawks. Once again, let's just sum up last week's game versus Denver Broncos. I had a wonderful day in third down conversions. I thought that was very huge versus the Broncos in that game. They went 7 for 12, completing 58%, and where 5 of them came from the running game. Remember, Najee Harris, he had 4 out of those 5 first downs on the ground. I mean, when you think about it, so he accumulated for 80% of those first downs running. I think Benny Snell had the other one. But, I mean, looking at this, I've been saying this before, too, and other people off to the side, even going into this game. Remember, Franco Harris didn't have his first 100-yard rushing game until his 5th game. I mean, his rookie year. So when you really look at it right now, I mean, from that perspective, I really do believe right now Najee Harris has a chance to really get better right now. The sky could really be the ceiling right now for this kid. He has got a lot, I mean, going on, in my opinion, quite frankly, where he really do some stuff here. I mean, he has got right now, I mean, a lot to convince, but I really do believe he's on his way. I mean, to get going for this time. I mean, he's only 15th in the league in rushing right now with 307 yards right now. And I want to say, as of right now, when we look at that, he leads all rookies right now for the time being in that category here. So, I mean, he's doing his part right now to start things off. I will say this right now, like I said, let's just take one game at a time. I mean, this is definitely going to be a huge game. This is obviously has some makings, as everyone knows, watching Mike Tomlin, his entire tenure as head coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers, this has all the ingredients for a trap game going into tonight. I mean, which is clearly the most obvious thing. I will say, too, don't put it past Pete Carroll where he can get creative. I think there's only one thing to knock on Mike Tomlin. I think that still comes because I was listening to 93.7 The Fan a couple days ago, and you look at the guys outside of like Bill Belichick, Andy Reid. I mean, the other coaches you got in this league where it's like a John Harbaugh, a Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin. I mean, some other cats are still, I mean, in this league right now. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, in today's NFL, I mean, for the most part, and then when you also couple in there too, let's see, some other guys who been around a while. You also got Sean McVay, I guess you could say right now. He's still got ways to prove himself. Or even like a Mike McCarthy. I mean, yeah, along those guys right there. I mean, when it comes to a game on the line, the playoffs, I heard, I think it was Chris Mack or Colin Dunlap, one of them. I want to say Chris Mack, but they probably would take John Harbaugh in a decisive game in the playoffs. To be honest with you, I can't argue against that for right now. I think John Harbaugh, I mean, has a little bit more of a way of adapting. But yeah, you could argue, look at like his pedigree. I mean, last three playoff appearances, he's been eliminated 2 out of those 3 times. He finally got back to a playoff win. I mean, last season. I mean, in those last 3 playoff appearances, I mean, he has been 1-3. But, I mean, he's still a guy that can figure things out. So, I mean, I have no issue with that. It's really going to be interesting to see if Mike Tomlin could keep the streak going up, to keep his streak of not having a losing season under his belt go on. But we'll find out. But also in that Broncos game, too, let's also look at it right there, too. Ben Roethlisberger, another milestone was added. He officially passed Emery on the all-time passing yard list with 61,634 yards in that game. And for the passing yards right there, which Ben Roethlisberger just passed him, he is now 6th on the all-time list. Phillip Rivers is ahead of him right now. He trails Phillip Rivers. He needs 1,806 yards. Past Phillip Rivers for 5th. But also, too, I mean, a lot of it was being talked to me last week. I mean, one of the biggest guys, I mean, Super Bowl MVP and a premier edge rusher, and Von Miller, he got held to no sacks in last week's game. Those 2 assisted tackles. He made 8 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro teams in his previous 9 seasons. He ended the game with 4.5 sacks this season. I mean, prior to that game, before they went down to the Steelers last Sunday, and 110.5 in his career. And you got right tackle, I mean, Chuks Okorafor, I mean, who was responsible for blocking them for that day. So, I mean, that really sounds a lot right there. I'm hoping right now, I mean, this is a sign right now that we're finally starting to see some continuity starting to happen for the Steelers team where they can really start to communicate well and really start to gel better as a team right now. I'm not going to lie. This is a time right now where they really need to, they can't be messing around anymore, especially, like I said, I really feel like, too, right now, they need to start doing a better job, like doing good in second halves. I mean, their only comeback, I mean, in the second half this season was in their first game this year when they were down 10-0. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick scoreboard update while we're keeping it live here on Show Blitz pregame show of the Steelers versus Seahawks right now. The Bengals right now, they are red hot right now, shutting out the Lions 27-0 right now in the Motor City of Detroit at Ford Field. Joe Burrow has passed for 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's got sacked twice for a loss of 22 yards, which bring down his net passing yards to 249 yards right now. Also in that game too, the running game has been huge right there. Joe Mixon gaining 94 yards off of 18 carries. He also got Jamar Chase right now, 4 receptions for 97 yards right now. He's been targeted 6 times, only dropped 2 passes in that game. But Joe Mixon, I mean, right there too in this game. I mean, I'd probably say he's probably one of the other MVPs. I mean, the game ball will probably go in this game aside from Joe Burrow right now, because for the game total, I mean, you look at Joe Mixon, he has got right now 153 yards with a touchdown off of 10 touches right now. So the Bengals really reinforcing why they should not be slept on this year, especially within the division right now. So some help the Steelers could be looking for. Doesn't look like it's going to be coming from the Lions over the Bengals. So that's going to be a win right there for the Bengals eventually. In that game, it's only about 9:38 left to go. The Lions do have the ball, but it's pretty much game over for the Lions. They're a matter of time for they go down right now. And also, too, you're also going to be having the Cleveland Browns right now, hosting the Arizona Cardinals right now. Now, the 1972 Miami Dolphins right now. I hate to keep bringing up old ghosts like them, but at the same time, too, they're never going to not go away right now. Trying to see if they can keep the champagne bottles popping for another day right now, as they're looking to cheer on the Browns to stop the Cardinals right now to try and challenge them for the other perfect season. They want to remain the only perfect season. But looking around the league right now, too, let's also look at some other AFC scores right now. I mean, which could prove to be pivotal in a way. I mean, you also got right now, too, the Vegas Raiders right now, the Denver Broncos. Why? I mean, think about this right now. I mean, either way, I mean, you'd probably be satisfied. I mean, if the Broncos lose this game, the Raiders win, and if the Steelers can handle business, they could gain a game on the Broncos. I think they were 10th place in the AFC wildcard going into this game. But you got the Raiders right now, who their season might be taking a U-turn. We shall see. Now that they're without John Gruden right now, officially, as he ousted himself from the Raiders organization, following the ridiculous controversy. I don't know if he'll ever come back into football again, ever. But when you look at it right now, I mean, the Vegas Raiders right now, they got Rich Bisaccia, looks like. I'd have to look up his translation last name later on. Excuse me, but he is taking over as the head coach right now of the Raiders going forward right now. He was previously the assistant head coach and special teams for the Raiders ever since John Gruden was there. They came on board together since 2018. So we'll see what he's got right there. I tell you what, I mean, I really like Derek Carr, to be honest with you. I mean, he's one guy who I do not mind seeing good things happen to. He's waiting a long time. I still think he reminds me of a comparable version, I mean, to like a Kirk Cousins right there. It's just a matter of like just winning bigger games and bigger spots right now. He can put up the numbers. He can duel out with anybody, if you ask me. I mean, for this time. Also, some other scores around the league going on right now, too. You got the Indianapolis Colts trouncing the Houston Texans right now. 24-3, 12-18 remain to go. Fourth quarter right now. That is in Indianapolis. Colts definitely kicking ass right now, as you could see for the most part. And then you also got to the Ravens on top of the Chargers. Now 34-6. Game over for the Chargers. Not happening today, obviously. Of course, you also had the early game in London, I believe it was today. The Jaguars, they get their first win of the season under Coach Urban Meyer right now. Congratulations to him, despite his controversy, too, not flying back with his team after that Thursday night loss to the Bengals, where he stayed in Ohio for the most part. for the most part. But yeah, I mean, this is a team right now who a lot of people were kind of questioning if like he be giving his walking paper to be forced out right now, especially being caught having a lap dance with another woman at a bar when he's a married guy. I mean, but the biggest, I mean, slam he's gotten just not travel back with his team, going back to Florida. I mean, you just don't abandon your team like that, which kind of like how it came across. Family's always be family. I'm never going to hate on Family Guy. Don't misconstrue it. But again, when you're talking about football too, in this sport, last thing you want to start messing with is the locker room chemistry right there and the relationship, especially when you have down moments. You want to show that you're in every moment aspect with your team. But when you got stuff in your life, I mean, which what made Bill Cowher a very special Hall of Fame coach. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, that's the beauty about Bill Cowher. He knew how to find that balance in his life. He always will still be there for like his players, his coaches, and people within the organization. I mean, he knew how like balance his time to like managing and coaching the football side of things as head coach, but also too like when it was outside of that area, how he made time for his daughters and his family. It's all about finding that right balance. I mean, at the same time right now, and that's what Urban Meyers has to understand. I mean, I don't know if he's going to go back to college, but that's only a topic for another day right now. So, I mean, and also too, let's take a look at some other scores going on right now throughout today's league right now. We've also got right now a very tight one right now, a very classic rivalry right now. Chicago Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers right now. It is 17-14 in favor of the Pack attack right now. Once again, trying to show their superiority over the Chicago Bears right now. Chicago Bears got rookie quarterback Justin Fields out of Ohio State University. Seems to be a lot of good excitement for him for the future of this team under the position right now. I mean, the Packers led by as many as 10 points. The Bears just got a touchdown a few moments ago right now. 7:27 remaining left to go in that ball game right now. And you look at like a franchise and a rivalry that's really spun around too. I mean, when you look at, I mean, in that time, Green Bay Packers right now, for the most part, who lead that series now by 6 games, 100 wins to 94 losses and 6 ties. I mean, of course, the founding father franchises of this league as we look at it for the time being. I mean, for this. And not only that, too. I mean, the one thing, like I said, I told many people about this. What I'm very jealous of with the Bears is this. They got a good pass rush. I mean, they're leading the leagues in sacks, which the Steelers have owned since 2017. That's the only thing I do not like. That's usually their department right now. As we look at it, Packers just scored a touchdown right now, depending if the receiver did not step out of bounds right now. Second and 10, it looks like it was incomplete, but yeah, they're trying to pull away right now. It looks like he got the first down. He stepped out at about the 18-yard line from what it looks like. Packers try to hold on and win that game. But anyway, nonetheless, I mean, you talk about the team was really trying to change the fortunes around once again in favor of the Bears. We'll see. But let's go ahead. Speaking of football right now, also too, Najee Harris right now, running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when you remember what Ben Roethlisberger was saying like a few weeks ago too. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger who like shouted out to Najee. I mean, when you look at this season right now, the Steelers try and find a way to dig themselves out of last place within the AFC North. I mean, going forward and trying to really make some momentum of their own. I mean, because when you look at it too, I mean, from their point of view, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers who are trying to like really I mean, get together. I mean, is their season right now? I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was quoted saying, "I keep telling Najee, get physical. You're big. Be big. Play big. Run through tackles. Don't avoid contact. Make contact. Be scary." I remember I got to play with Jerome Bettis, and Jerome created contact. It was a game changer when he ran people over. But I keep trying to reiterate that to him. And yeah, I mean, I know it sounded a little bit controversial a couple weeks ago when he was saying it, especially when he was struggling at his game. But at the same time, too, I mean, listen, I mean, when you really, I mean, think about this, I mean, for a second, too, I think Najee Harris kind of needed that wake up call, to be honest with you. I mean, it was more so the offensive line, not so much Najee. I really think Najee was trying to do everything he could, I mean, throughout this season to really get better. I mean, even so, I mean, look at a guy like Le'Veon Bell, I mean, who moved on, went over to different teams. I mean, since his last stint here in Pittsburgh, he can't really do as much without like having the benefit of a good offensive line. I mean, when he went to the Jets, the Chiefs, and now possibly the Ravens, if he gets called up from the practice squad. But when you look at Najee right now, I mean, for like his numbers, I mean, this year, I mean, yet alone, I really believe, I mean, the sky's going to be the limit for him. I mean, listen, I mean, he has got, like I said, 198 yards of receiving, 307 yards on the ground rushing. He's averaging 3.9 yards per attempt for about 61.4 yards a game. I mean, in that aspect. And that's, I mean, that's how you do it right now. I mean, he's got 3 touchdowns for the year. I mean, and you look at like his games, I mean, so far throughout this season right now. I mean, he's been kind of going up little by little since that call out from Ben Roethlisberger. He had 12 more yards in the loss versus the Packers a couple weeks ago, where he went from 40 to 62 yards. And then this past week, he had 60 yards. So he doubled what he had nearly had more than what he had. So he had 60 yards more, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, for his time right now, I mean, Najee Harris, I mean, he's definitely trying to like show why the Steelers have been missing a run game they haven't had in a while since Lev Bell back in 2017. This is the time right now, and it's like we're Ben Roethlisberger. And speaking of which, Ben Roethlisberger too. I mean, when we look at it too, I mean, you're listening to like guys like talk, even like Chris Hokie, too, who does one of the post game shows on the Extra Point, Bob Pompiani in Pittsburgh. He was saying you kind of have to go back to like to like that old Ben Roethlisberger, like what we knew, because when you look at his career right now, his numbers. When he has 25 yards passing attempts or less right now, I mean, in his career, what's that 25 passing attempts or less, he is 50-5 win-loss record, 5-1 in the playoffs for a career total of 55 wins and 6 losses. For his regular season total, I mean, that adds up for 110.7 QB rating, where he's passed for 10,266 yards, 80 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. I mean, let's think about that for a second. Nearly 111 QB rating. I mean, in 61 games where he's kept the ball to at least 25 or below passing attempts. That's winning football right there. Only 50 wins, 5 losses. But 55 career wins and 6 losses. The one loss being in the playoffs where he had that lowest attempt was against New England Patriots in his rookie year in the AFC Championship game where they lost 41-27. They better to believe right now, I mean, that's got to be a point of emphasis. Really try to like open things up in a way to like make things easier for your team around you. Make it easier on your teammates. Because I will say this, because, like I said, Ben Roethlisberger, we know the hourglass is pouring in the sand right now. I mean, but if you can kind of give him a little bit more, better protection, not ask him to do as much, But I mean, also more importantly for him, not to take on as much responsibility, he can still have a shiny, respectable ending to his quarterback career, his playing career in the National Football League, especially with the Steelers. Playing how you want to be remembered by. I will say for Ben Roethlisberger, I think for him, unfortunately, I think the kiss of death in his career. I mean, if you really think about it for a second, let's be honest here. Throwing for 5,000, over 5,000 yards in 2018, 5,129 yards. I mean, where he also had a career high in passing touchdowns with 34 that year, still threw 16 picks. I mean, that right there, I think, was enough where he put a lot on his throwing shoulder, too, right there. And it really caught up with him. Because that is a lot, especially for his age. I mean, he did that at the age of 36 right at that time. He's 39 years old right now as we speak. But, I mean, look at how that eventually caught up with him the following year. And I will say, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, definitely, no doubt, a Hall of Fame guy. I mean, first ballot. We'll definitely can't wait to see this guy in Canton. But for right now, I mean, he has got to, like, I mean, if he really wants to truly have one last good shot at the apple and really a good run here, he has got to play smarter football, period. You just cannot be trying to put on the cape of Superman and really expect that, you know what, I'm still that guy. No, it doesn't work like that. You're still the guy for this team, okay? The problem is you're just not the guy in this league right now who we could look out and like really be wowed by and still put you in the top tier quarterback ranking. That's not how it's going to work. You have to trust your teammates. It's not just also like getting Najee Harris more and like touches on the ground. But I mean, one thing too we haven't seen in a long time is the involvement of the tight ends right now when we look at it. And I really feel like right now that is a big definitely can't thing right now for a long time is the involvement of this time as we look right at it now when we look at it, where they really gotta like be smart and on top of it. Because I will say this, Steelers right now for this time they're trying to really like establish themselves, trying to really get their season, I mean, turned around and really trying to make somewhat decent respectancy. They still got plenty of time to do it. It's hard to believe that they're going to be when the season ends that they'll be found in last place in the AFC North. I will say that will definitely look beyond bad if that continues to go down the way it does. But I do believe right now you still got a lot of hope for right now. You got to handle not only the games on your schedule, but also the games, too, that your opponents are also going to be playing to. I mean, as you look at it, everybody faces the AFC West. Thank God they finally got out of that losing FUD and losing to the AFC West in the same season. I mean, getting a win, a much-needed win versus the Broncos. Because I tell you what, going into this game, this would be looking a whole lot worse right now. They would have not held on to last week's victory versus Denver. I mean, it would just been an all-world catastrophe as we look at it. So, I mean, for the most part, once again, Steelers versus Seahawks, big game. Once again, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can definitely do so. You can follow me on Twitter at MassSteelCGR and on Instagram at MassSteelNation as we are looking at for right now. I'd like to hear your thoughts right now, where the Steelers look in the season going in right now. 2-3, unfortunately, still last place in the division. I mean, the help that they were looking for from the Ravens and Bengals so far has not been any help, to say the least, right now. But for right now, let's see what happens going forward right now as they really look to establish their turnaround for this time being right now. And right now too. Let's also look at it too. My man Brian DiArlo, who I've had on in the past before, said that he led all rookie running backs with 307 rushing yards for 4 games. He is second in receptions on the Steelers team with 28 and third in yards with 198. And Franco Harris on, Najee Harris on Jerome Bettis. He said he watched him whenever he played when I was young. Harris said about the Hall of Fame players and Super Bowl champion. I like Jerome. I've talked to Jerome a lot of times. He's a good dude. Just as a person, I like him. So let's go ahead and share you a little bit of some roster news right now. Going into this game right now. Devin Bush right now, who suffered a leg injury in last week's game versus the Broncos. He was questionable to return in that game. But going into it, on the injury report that was released this past week, so far seems to be in good standing right now going into today's matchup. Devin Bush, who had a groin injury, as it was listed, he was a full participant throughout the whole week. You also had Ben Roethlisberger. He was full Thursday and Friday. Juju Smith-Schuster, unfortunately, he is on injury reserve. You know how much Ben Roethlisberger felt about Juju Smith-Schuster, how much loss that's to me for him and the players. I mean, he was crushed. I mean, that was one of his favorite receivers on this team. But also, right now, too, they'll also be without Carlos Davis, once again with a knee injury. But the guys you will see available, so for right now, what's looking good for is Ben Roethlisberger, of course, no doubt. Trey Turner, non-injury related. He was full participant on Thursday and Friday. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Chase Claypool, he was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, but he was a full participant Friday. Then you got James Washington, too, a guy who I think is coming back right now. Cam Sutton right now. Hayward, who's playing with neck injury, who has a neck injury. I think he had that last week, too, on the injury report, which he did. I mean, he's been when that was going into the Broncos game. So he was a full participant on Thursday, Friday, did not practice. I mean, he was limited on Wednesday. Cam Sutton, he was a full participant. And that's all you need to know right there. Now with the Seattle Seahawks for right now, I mean, you got some guys, quite a few laundry list right here. I mean, going into this matchup, going into this game as we look at it, for the most part, as Pete Carroll tries to really rail up his team too. This is another team right now as it stands. Just like the Steelers, going into this game for this matchup, the Seattle Seahawks, they find themselves in last place in the division, just like the Steelers right now. And for their injury report status going today's game on Sunday Night Football, still no statuses right now as I look at it, but yeah, there you have it right now. We'll see. I think a few of the notable guys on this injury report, when we looked at it, was I'd probably say the few I'd be a little concerned with will probably be DK Metcalf, possibly, who was limited, basically. He was one of their stars, limited on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday. And then you also had running back Chris Carson. He didn't practice all on Wednesday and Thursday. And quite a few other people. But, like I said, for the Steelers right now, they definitely got their work cut out. You would think this would be a winnable game, for them to really, try and reestablish and show that they're not flipping away. They're not losing their grip on staying in this race. I think Mike Tomlin, you got to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. We've seen how many times before where you would think a season should go a lot further south. It hasn't. He's been able to rally his troops somehow and really make a good run with his team. not keeping them ever in a losing status right now. And I got to tell you, I mean, for this time right now, this is time right now where it's kind of like one for the taking in a way. I mean, for the Steelers, and you can arguably say the Seahawks, both teams right now could like really like do themselves a favor and really try and like hold on and fight for survival here, and really try and like keep their season alive and possibly some glimmer of hope as they continue to move forward and look at everything right now. Because for the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, for them, because remember, they also lost. I mean, by the way, I mean, I want to say like their last two games, I want to say it was. Let's see. So the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, prior to the loss of the Rams, their last victory was versus the 49ers, and their two victories only come out in the first game and the fourth season so far. So they went on a two-game losing streak after week one, losing to the Titans and in Minnesota to the Vikings, and then losing to the Rams on Thursday Night Football right there. And what you saw in that game, I mean, in that contest right now, Russell Wilson, he suffered an injury to his right middle finger. One of the surgery this past Friday, doctors believe he would miss about 6 weeks after having the surgery. They believe it feels realistic he'll be back in 4 weeks right now. I will say this, though. I mean, for the Steelers trying to turn the season around, it is disappointing not to see one of the top quarterbacks go head to toe right now. But hopefully this is a good sign right now. Steelers could take advantage of this right now. Because, listen, I mean, ever since Thanksgiving last year, despite the fact that they were able to pick up their 11th victory after starting off 10-0 at that point, I mean, you really saw how last days ago, I mean, this offense could be, and just really how concerning it was. And the Steelers right now, I mean, they need this for a lot of reasons. But, I mean, you also look at the Seahawks, too. I mean, who are in last place, not in the last place, excuse me, but they're tied with the Niners in the division right now, basically. And Seattle Seahawks right now, they only got one conference win opponent. That's over the 49ers, so that's why they got the tiebreaker right there. They beat the Niners. Niners are in last place. But, I mean, if you win that game, I mean, basically, I mean, for the most part, I mean, there are only 3 games out of first place. Granted, it's going to be a lot of tough sledding, a lot to ask to do without your main guy, Russell Wilson. And yes, the defense is no longer what it was, but you still got a playmaker on there and a guy like Earl Thomas right now. And also, too, I mean, you also got a good guy right there, too. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, the rookie, Darrell Taylor, excuse me, he leads his team with 4 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 5 quarterback hits. So, I mean, this group right here could be a nice little tandem right there, despite playing opposite positions on the linebacker. You got an edge rusher and a middle linebacker, but Bobby Wagner, I think, is definitely one guy to watch out for in this game right now. I mean, he could still do some damage and really make his presence very well known in this game, as we look at for right now, for the most part. But speaking of which, moving the chains right now, despite all this, Najee Harris, who felt a little sheepish in the post-game press conference last week, because he said the attention should be heaped on the offensive line, not his first 100-yard rush game in the NFL. No, Coach Canada was very vocal this week, according to Roethlisberger. But he said, for me, this week was about just trying to encourage, talk to each guy, and tell them I believe in them. I know they can do it. I'm not sure what each one responds to, the yelling or the encouraging. And right now, I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger continues to stay upright, maybe he can stay happy, and we'll see how much that could turn around their season as we look at what they try to do to move forward. I mean, going into this, I mean, for the most part, I mean, they got their work cut out for them either way. The Seattle Seahawks at the end of the day, I mean, as long as you still got a guy like Pete Carroll there, obviously they're going to be no slouch. They're going to come ready to play. You better believe Pete Carroll's got a game plan. I mean, for this team ready to go. I'm not sure, I mean, how much we're going to see that on display tonight, but you got to believe right now, I think for the Steelers going to this game, you definitely want to kick that door open and keep your opponent down, because right now, this is a time right now where there's no room for error the rest of the way if you're looking to keep any resemblance of a nice postseason run. I mean, going into this, we shall see about that. But I will say for right now, Steelers right now, this is a game, a lot riding on it right now. And I'm not saying about future changes or anything, nothing like that. It's not good away. But TJ Watt right now, let's go a little bit on defense right now, who came up shy the last 2 seasons. Looking to have some more competition possibly as he tries to get, for the first time in his career, Defensive Player of the Year. A guy who's come up very short the last couple of seasons right now. I mean, he was leading the league in sacks, quarterback hits last year, and I think tackles for loss was another category. But when you also look at it too, I mean, TJ Watt, I mean, who's been doing everything he could right now. One guy that might give him some company is Trevon Diggs right now. He currently has 6 interceptions for the season. Who matched his career high that he says for himself back in 2019 when he was with the Bills right now. Cowboys defeated the Giants in Dallas at AT&T Stadium last week. Ever since losing opening games to the Buccaneers, they have went 4-0 right now, 4-1 going to today's matchup. They're getting ready to host the New England Patriots in Jerry World right now. I mean, looking at that matchup right there, should be a fun one to watch right there, if you ask me. I mean, the Cowboys and Patriots right there, as the Cowboys are really looking to continue to put their stamp on a very special season they got going on right now. I mean, you look at it right there. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, I mean, one of the Hall of Fame coaches being into the Hall of Fame, along with Bill Cowher. I mean, also finally getting the news, I mean, that he's getting induction to the Cowboys Ring of Honor. I mean, for this season, hopefully we just don't know what game. I mean, that should be an awesome moment to see right there, no matter what team you're a fan of. I mean, for me, he's a guy who's definitely deserved it. I mean, it's been a lot of weird, awkward relationship. I mean, since moving on right now. But, I mean, we'll find out when that will be happening. But for the most part, let's see. But, yeah, Trevon Diggs right now. I mean, when you also look at this guy right now, too, nobody else in the history of this game has got 5 interceptions in his first 5 games of a season. He's got 6 and is on pace to share his single-season record of 14. That still might be unlikely, but right now, the late Pro Football Hall of Famer Dick Night Train Lane, he holds a single-season record with 14 interceptions, and we'll see if he can be able to not only break that, but I think that'd be very special right there. And I tell you what, Trevon Diggs might be a legit candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, to be honest. We'll see about that. But for anyway, let's keep it here right now. I mean, TJ Watt, who's definitely been playing for some pain, he only missed 1 game this season. Of course, that was game first the Bengals, where he injured his groin during the game, and the home opener versus the Raiders, which the Steelers are 1-2 at Heinz Field this season. And we look at it right there. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. Let's go ahead and get into keys to the game. Key number 1, Ben Roethlisberger, be patient with throwing the ball once again. Like I said, career-wise, when you look at this guy, I mean, his record as a quarterback, 50-5 right now. I mean, in his career, I mean, he for a career win-loss record of 55-6, includes 5-1 in the playoffs. I mean, he has like a nearly 111 QB rating right there, 80 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. And he's also, I mean, completed, I mean, in that span, about over 66% of his passes. So nearly 67%. So I think that's going to be key number one, because you got to believe right now, whoever could this game, whoever believes will probably be the end of the winner in this game right now. I mean, Seahawks are minus 32. They're dead last in turnover ratio. But when you look at it like on the defensive side too, I mean, they're also 32nd. I mean, I think in that regard. Well, not dead last, excuse me. They're dead last as far as takeaways. I'm not sure about the turnover ratio aspect. We'll get a little bit later on. Whoever, I think that's going to be a huge advantage right there. Key number two for today's game. Right now, be aware of edge rusher Darrell Taylor, who, like I said, he leads the team with 4 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 5 quarterback hits. And still be aware of Bobby Wagner right now, who could be a disruptor on this team with tackles for loss. Also keep Geno Smith in the pocket. Try to limit his offensive weapons. And Tyler Lockett, 3 touchdowns, and DK Metcalf, 5 touchdowns. And last but not least, try and stop the run game. Make Geno Smith become a passer in this game, which is why you got to keep him in the pocket. And that's going to be my keys for today's game. And that's going to be that's going to be it for this edition here of Show Blitz of the Steelers vs. Seahawks pregame show here of the Man of Steel podcast. Once again, you guys can follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter at Man of Steel CGR and on Instagram at Man of Steel Nation. As I leave you, don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, sirs. Here we go. I gone.